Hey guys, welcome to the Chloe D and Matt C Something Different podcast, where we talk about life and faith and how they intersect. Let's get into it. So, what's like a couple of your favorite memories of your kids? You got any? I know I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
No. Um, uh, I'm not. I don't have a good memory. That's why I'm laughing. That's
Not
what that
not
makes
good.
is I just don't
Not
have a good
not
memory.
not not good
I forget
memories,
everything.
but a good memory.
Yeah, I don't.
You have
I
good
don't have.
memory, but
I don't have either.
okay.
No, I have good memories. I really. Yeah.
Okay.
You got some?
I have like so. Yeah, I do. Um, One of my favorites. Um, my parents were always real good about making sure that we did get some sort of vacation every other year or something like that.
Okay.
They would take my family, just my family, because they tried to take all of us at once,
Yeah.
and it was so hard to divide their time between my sister's family and my family and my brother's family.
Yeah.
And so they wanted they
They
would
would
take
take
us
all of
they
or
would take
individually.
all of us individually, and it
Okay.
was usually to the same place,
Yeah.
but at different times in the year,
Okay.
and they would just focus on
One at a time. Yeah.
that child's family at that time.
Okay.
And so the memory that's one of my favorites is they took us to Port Aransas,
Mhm.
and we went to the beach,
Okay.
and I my mom had my girls, which my oldest was 7 at the time. She would bring them to their hotel, my mom and dad's hotel room every night, and they got their laptop out. Laptops were, I mean, not that I'm really old, but laptops weren't like everybody
Yeah.
had one,
Yeah.
or at least my parent. It was new to my parents, and
Yes.
so my mom was super stoked
Yeah.
to have her computer in her room, and um, she would type for my youngest daughter, but for my oldest daughter typed what we did that day,
Mhm.
and then uh, she had they were really good about making memories for us,
Yeah.
and so she printed it out, and like I have it, it's in my office. The Adventures of a 7-Year-Old Girl,
Mhm.
and it's Elizabeth's story about what we did,
Yeah.
and in that. Um, like my parents are kind of cheesy too, and I guess like I get that. Like I have that in me too.
Yeah.
But uh, so we went to the beach and we were swimming in the ocean, and I noticed like my dad does not like the water. He couldn't swim. He almost drowned when he was in
Mhm.
high school because he was acting dumb at a city pool.
Okay.
Um, and so he was afraid of water. Now
Yeah.
we went fishing and stuff like that, but he was like, everybody put a life jacket on,
Yeah.
and that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So when we went to the beach, he would be like wading, ankle deep, but never out in the waves.
He didn't like that
And
aggressive water.
huh?
He didn't like that
He didn't
aggressive
like
water.
aggressive water, no. But he was like messing around in the back of the car, and I was like, Dad, what are you doing? Like, get out here and enjoy this with us.
Yeah.
And he was messing around, and finally, I see him walk down the beach from us, and he has a Dr. Pepper bottle in his hand. My dad hated Dr. Pepper. And I guess he was drinking Dr. Pepper. I don't know, making himself drink it. And he threw this bottle into the Gulf.
Okay.
And then like, he looks at my mom like, got it done.
Uh-huh.
And then, like, my mom's looking and looking, and she goes, "Kids, look!" And she's yelling at my kids, and it's like, "We found this treasure bottle."
Yeah.
And so they open it up, and it's got this treasure map,
Uh-huh.
and it's got these 2 cars, and you're supposed to like walk just a little bit away.
Okay.
My dad wasn't drinking Dr. Pepper. He was digging a hole.
He was digging a
He was
hole.
digging a hole, and he buried a treasure chest. And so,
Okay.
like, they were like, we got to take 10 paces, and so they did the whole thing. And there's a big X on the ground,
Uh-huh.
and like, so I finally figured out what we're doing. My dad produces these little camping shovels, so he's got a bunch of camping shovels
Mhm.
that he's bought like at a garage sale, and like we're digging, and my kids are frustrated to no end. Like they are not excited
Yeah.
about this digging that we're
You're
doing
doing.
because we're supposed to be in the ocean
Yeah.
playing,
Yeah.
not digging.
Yeah.
And so we're digging, and but then we hit something, and like something happened to Jeremiah, who was, if Elizabeth was 7, Jeremiah was 3.
Okay.
So a little guy,
Uh
but we hit something in the dirt.
huh.
And all of a sudden, Jeremiah's like, "Get out of the way, girl!" Like he hit Elizabeth's toe, and she's bleeding, and he's just like digging and digging and digging. They dig out this treasure
Uh
chest,
huh.
and it's full of like little coins that are
Okay.
chocolate.
Huh.
And um, and like of course, we ate the chocolate, but I still have the treasure chest in my office,
Okay.
and
That's
so
cool.
it's like a really neat,
Yeah.
sweet memory. But
Yeah.
that's like that involves my parents and my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that like where we come from kind of informs who we are, and hopefully we can pass that down to our kids and future
Yeah.
generations
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah.
So like when I think about that, I kind of think about my parents' legacy, and like talked about like my grandpa, my mom's dad helped my dad learn to have fun,
Mhm.
but like that's something he passed down to me,
Yeah.
and hopefully I can pass that down to my kids. But when you think about like legacy, like I feel like that's kind of a scary word. What do you feel like your legacy will be?
I don't know. Um. Yeah, I was like, I don't know about mine. I can think about my, like my grandparents and my parents.
Okay, what would you say?
That'd be easier because
Yeah, let's
I'm
talk
not
about
old
that.
enough. I ain't old enough for that word yet.
I know, right?
You know what? But
We're not. We're not,
it's
Chloe. We're not old
no,
enough for
no,
legacy.
no. But I mean, it is a strong. It's a strong word, is what
Yeah, it is.
it's.
It's something that's like this is the
It's an
heritage.
impact.
It is like you've made a difference.
Mhm.
And I think so
Yeah.
many times we want to make a difference. I think
Yeah.
everybody wants to make a difference
Yeah.
in their own way.
Yeah. Well, and your families do make a difference in your adult life and
Yeah.
on
So
in
what would you
you.
say let's start like way back. What would you say your legacy, at least in your life and maybe in their life around you, what would you say your grandparents' legacy is in your opinion?
Okay. I guess. Well, I don't know because we've talked a lot about this, like just what you're taught at home is what you take on, and that can carry over for generations
Yeah.
and generations. You have to start here. Thankfully, like my grandparents, I feel like they instilled God in us.
Yeah.
And that to me is kind of a legacy because, or not a legacy, but it's an impact that has carried over into like, it's still pouring into our family.
Yeah.
God is still pouring into our family.
Wow. Yeah.
And I am thankful for that because I'm always thankful to know God. I'm thankful to be raised to know God. Not everybody gets to experience that.
Yeah.
And I think with God came love. And I feel like there was a lot of love in our home, like in their home.
Yeah.
And I think that carried over for my mom and my aunt because I think that they both made very smart choices with what
Hmm.
and I think it's funny the differences in families because my dad's family is different than my mom's family is.
Yeah.
Um they're different and my what is it? My who is it? They just I guess I know my mom's family better than I know my dad's family.
Okay. Is that because you grew up in closer proximity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we saw my other grandparents once a year.
Okay.
And so we really didn't I wouldn't say that I had a very close, you know what I mean? Like I love them all.
Yeah.
I get to see them, they come and visit and they're awesome. I just didn't know them well. Like it was kind of a very surface
Yeah. It's like
relationship.
you're getting to know them every time.
Yeah.
And I mean, not that we don't. learn about
Yes,
more about each.
but you're not in each other's everyday life.
Yeah,
So, I can't speak on them the same way I can speak on my other grandparents.
yeah,
But I think between even with my dad and my parents, they both had God.
yeah,
And thankfully they both had God because then that carried into all five of us.
yeah.
And so I'm like,
So how would you talk about your mom and dad and like not just like because I think we talk about like well I have my dad's smile and I have my mom's eyes or like
yeah,
physical
yeah,
traits.
no, I
So what would you say you received from your parents that's in you?
yeah. Um, I guess my dad is patient. He's a very, very patient person. He's not quick to anger at all. My mom is a little spitfire.
Okay,
So they're both, they're different. My mom is more not more outgoing. She's more, yeah, she's more outgoing than my dad is. Um they both like had different, I guess their relationship with God
yeah,
was different from each other's.
okay.
Like
They
their
were in a different
stories.
place. Yeah,
Yes, their stories, but it's been really cool because my mom was raised in a very conservative, almost like a fear of God type,
yeah,
like
like afraid of God.
yes. Yes. So my mom's parenting was, I would say, probably a little harsher,
Okay,
where my dad's was a little bit more graceful
okay,
because Steve studied Christianity later in life,
okay.
so
Yeah,
it was something he came into, not forced into.
yeah,
A different type of love.
yeah. And I mean, I think like, would you say? I don't know how to ask that question. Um,
Ask it.
well, I was trying to think of like when you think of your own parenting. So like, like I remember saying, I'm never gonna do this,
Yeah.
and then
And doing it.
and then I catch myself doing those things, and it's like, oh, like the teenage version of me is like so mad at myself right now
Yeah.
because I swore this is like I would not be this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm like thinking about it. I mean, there's really both of them. There's not a lot that I would change about them because
Yeah,
they
for
were
sure,
pretty solid.
absolutely.
Um, was my mom crazy? Yes. Did she get mad? Yes. But like, she was always, she always said she was sorry.
Okay, yeah,
So,
because
you're,
parents are people too.
yes, parents are people too. And then when you become an adult and you have your own children, then you have a different understanding of what they're doing.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know, because I am a lot like my mom. Um,
yeah,
and so there's a lot of things that, like you're saying, you think you'll never do, and then you watch yourself do. But I'm also kind of okay with those things that you know what I mean, with
yeah,
the things she's
yeah.
taught me.
Because of the where you're at now.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I'm
I
kind of
agree.
like I'm okay with being like my mom. I don't. I'm definitely, I have a mouth on me. Um, I was trying to fight with Tyler just the other night, and that's just the honest truth. And I'm not always easy to get along with. I'm easy to get along with, but I'm saying like sometimes I have my very bad qualities.
I'm easy to get along with as long as you agree with me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. As long as you just tell me the truth. Just tell me the truth.
No. Um. So when you think about your kids, what do you like? Because I so appreciate my kids
Mhm.
and like how different
They are.
they are, like unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think everybody's unique. Like
Yeah.
truly, everybody's unique. I know it's cliche to say, like you're one
No,
of one, but
I agree
but
with
like,
that.
what do you appreciate about your kids? Like you see that in them, and like you're like, man, that's I'm so glad that's you.
Yeah. Well, and I'm like, my kids are still, they're still
Yeah,
learning, but
yeah,
I have,
still
they,
young and grow.
both of our oldest turned 13 this year. And Maddox got baptized recently.
Yeah,
And then Swayze has been in a new school and a new environment.
yeah,
So they're both kind of growing. And I had been thinking a lot about that lately. That 13-year-old them, both of them, like I'm really proud of them.
yeah.
Um, the conversations are changing. They're different. You know what I mean?
I do. I
And
remember
you
that.
can tell that they're grown.
Hmm.
Like you're having grown
You're
conversations.
having semi-adult
Mhm,
conversation.
mhm.
Yeah,
And so it's cool to see them grow, and like I'm proud of them. I'm proud to watch them grow. Like I'm like this is cool.
yeah.
And then Nash is the youngest and he acts just like Tyler, but he's a sweetheart. He's so
Okay.
sweet. He's so sweet. So I don't know, I feel like the oldest they both are leaders,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
they both take care of. And then I don't know. I don't because I'm like Nash is still growing into, so it's
Yeah,
just
absolutely. I think that's fair. Like
it's
especially when they're really young, like they're still growing into who they will be.
yes. Yes. Where like with the 13-year-olds, I feel like I'm just getting to watch them kind of become
Hmm.
little adults. Like
Yeah.
so it's but I'm proud of where they both are. I'm excited to see where they go.
Yeah.
Like your kids. You've got
Well,
you've
and
got you've got adult children.
I have kids that are a little older. I mean, Crystal and I said yesterday, when did we get this old?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like I feel like yeah we've been married for a couple of years, but we shouldn't have 20-year
You
olds
shouldn't know.
like that. I'm not that old,
Yeah.
or at
Yeah.
least I don't feel like I
You don't
should.
feel
I
that
don't feel
old.
like I should be. Um, but like you know, just the other day, uh, Jeremiah is going to. He's taking welding
Mhm.
course, but he's not staying on campus. He's still at our house, but he's
Okay.
driving and
He's
going to
driving.
school,
Uh-huh.
and like that's what he wants to do with life. And I think it's neat um, that that's what my mom's dad did.
Yeah.
Like he
He
owned a
was
welding shop,
yes.
and
Yes.
so like I like when things like come back full circle like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so that's just like that. So I've talked about a lot about my papa or grandpa. Like
Mhm.
talked a lot about my grandpa, and uh, I just think that's really neat how like that's a part of our family heritage is just like helping people
Mhm. Yeah.
because that's what
Yeah.
like my grandpa helped people at a welding shop and my
Yeah.
papa was a plumber,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so
It's a
like
it's service.
it's service
Mhm.
oriented, which a lot of things are service oriented, but they were their own bosses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they, no one made them get up and go to work
Yes. There
except
was
they had to pay bills.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe their wives, my granny and my grandma, maybe made them go to work,
Yeah.
but and they were similar but different.
Uh-huh.
Like my papa, um, uh, wasn't isn't my biological grandfather,
Okay. Okay.
um, and so like that was an I didn't realize that until a lot later in life
Yeah. Yeah.
because he loved me
Well, yes.
like because
He was your papa. Yeah.
I was his grandson,
Yes.
and he was proud of me and he loved
Yes.
me, and so like there was no reason for me to think otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, even though our last names weren't the same,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I didn't know that.
Well,
Like I
no.
didn't know
No.
like
And it
it
doesn't
didn't
matter.
click. He taught
Personal.
my
So
dad how to work,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
he was self-employed, so yeah, they worked a lot.
Mhm.
And my dad was the oldest kid, so yeah, my dad got to dig a lot of ditches.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like Papa needed a plumbing job done, and I mean, you don't get paid till the job's done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, like there was a
Yeah.
lot of pressure as he got older,
Mhm.
but he's the one who taught my dad like his work ethic.
Yes.
And like I'm not a welder, but and I'm not a plumber, but
But you have work ethic.
but I have work ethic
Uh-huh.
from those
From
men,
them. Yes.
and how my grandmothers supported uh, their husbands.
Yeah. Yeah.
How I got to see that and be around it,
Yes.
and like you're talking about, like houses full of love,
Yes. Yes.
and God was in the middle of all of that and in the mix.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, because a family is made up of two sides.
Mhm.
Um, like my father-in-law's birthday was yesterday,
Okay.
and he was a single dad
Okay.
for most of
Okay.
my wife's life,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
and so he feels both roles,
Yeah.
and like that's
That's a
part of our legacy.
mhm. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then how her grandmother stepped in, her Mimi
Uh-huh.
stepped in, and he
And
was
help.
and helped because my father-in-law was a firefighter, and so
Okay. Yeah.
he was not at the house on those days he had to be on call,
Mhm.
and so they would go live with their Mimi and their papa.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in a lot of ways, her Mimi is a lot like her mom,
Yes. Yes.
but I mean that's part of our family story.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think it's neat how God places us in a family
Mhm.
and how we learn some things we don't want,
Mhm.
because there truly are some things
Absolutely. For sure.
that I hope that my family's different
Yeah.
than the family I came from, but
Yeah.
there's also some things that as I live, I hope that there are a lot of things that are like my family.
Yeah. 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 Well, and you love your people. You know, your people are your people and you love them. And some are better than not better than others, but some do it different than others and
Yeah,
some
you learn different things from
do learn
different ones.
different things. Yeah. Um I I guess to me that God God was love in the
Mm,
family.
yeah.
And because of because of God and because of love, there's just
Mhm.
there was a lot like now that I'm older and understand, I'm very thankful for
Yeah.
like I'm thankful for the love.
So do you think, since like you came from a farm family, that being an entrepreneur wasn't as scary because that was just part of life? Because I mean, I think of farm families as like they're their own bosses. They
Mhm.
are entrepreneurs.
Yes, absolutely. For sure. Um yeah, and I'm not like I'm the oldest.
Okay.
And so I think some of those things are just kind of by nature in
Yeah,
my
in your
gender
upbringing.
role.
Yeah.
Yes, not gender role, in my lineup in my siblings.
Okay.
Now I will say this, my second brother, he also they say that when you have a gender change in your lineup, that your second will take on oldest responsibilities. That
Really?
is what they say. That's my psychology.
Okay.
That's my
Oh
not
man.
psychology degree talking.
Wow.
But it a
O-
lot of homes that I know that
Yeah.
it is like that. Like they do that.
Okay.
But Keenan has way more older qualities than I do.
Okay.
However, Keenan could not work for himself because he was not Keenan does great. All of my brothers all work very hard, but they
Absolutely.
all work hard and great for someone else.
Okay.
My personality is not like that because I'm not as compliant.
Okay.
I'm very stubborn. I have a mouth on me.
Yeah.
I will so I guess kind of I feel just
Do you feel like you're a dreamer?
oh, 1,000%.
Do you think that's like, does that come from your family or from your place in your sibling group,
I
or
think so. I think my dad is a little bit of a dreamer. And this is funny and interesting. Now that I'm older, I'm like, let me get in your business. Let me do more for let me because
okay.
I have
Not like
I
get
think,
in your business, but
yeah,
like get in your literal like the business.
yeah, because I'm kind of like I don't think my dad has the work ethic,
Hmm.
but he doesn't have he's
Your
not the
dad is a hard worker,
very.
and but the yeah, I don't know how to say that.
He's not a dreamer. Um, he's and my mom is
He's
a
he's a
realist.
doer.
He's a doer. Yes. And he also I think has ADHD. I think both of my parents do. But he's kind of like me. He just can't sit still, so he's kind of just roaming and not always we're just doing, but it's not always
Yeah,
you
I understand that.
constructive.
Yeah, I hear that.
Um but yes, I do think growing up and watching, I don't think it was scary for me. I definitely couldn't have done it without them either. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, like
they
as you moved into adulthood and they were just they transitioned to your support system,
yeah,
because that isn't. I'm telling you as a parent of some older kids, that is an interesting dynamic when you move to the advisor. Like
yeah, yeah.
if my kids want advice and they ask me, I'm free to tell them, but
Uh-huh.
I can't. Like I can't be like I was when they were younger. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, you can't do that
Yes.
because they
Because
can't.
they can.
And
Well, it's like you were in my house and you had to listen to my rules. Now you I hope you
I hope
do,
you
but you
do.
don't have to.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're not under
Like
my roof
I think this
anymore.
was the best practice because
Yeah.
I mean, we would obviously we wouldn't do like it's like this is the worst thing, but we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna do our best practice.
Yes. Yeah.
But
No. I guess probably work ethic and having support. And I feel that same way about my mom and my grandma both. Like they were very supportive of their farmers,
yeah,
and it definitely takes, it's not just a, I mean, like my dad had four boys that were able to help him. He had
yeah,
four farm hands. We always joked about that. Um, and I was not doing work with my dad like my brothers were,
yeah,
but I was taking my dad from farm to farm.
yeah,
I was still working, on summer.
yeah.
I'm sitting at home during the summer, and my brothers, they have a different perception of this. Their perception of what I did and what they do are so different. But I'm like, my dad, I did help my dad,
Yeah.
not at the same capacity, but I did
Different
help
ways.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
different ways.
yeah. So it's like I definitely did think that helped with work ethic
Yeah.
because you know, it,
Well, and different kids are different. Like
yeah,
even your brothers probably helped your dad differently.
yeah,
Now they may have even done the same job,
yeah,
but helped him in different ways.
yeah, yeah,
Because I mean, uh, like my kids are so different.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, my son and my uh, youngest daughter both work for your dad,
Yes, yes.
and like your dad jokes with Abigail and says, "Don't marry a farmer." He says, "You know too much.
Yeah,
Like he's gonna make you work so hard
yeah.
because you know all of these
Because
things.
you can do
Because
this.
you can do all of these
Yeah.
things. Don't marry a farmer." And then he always talks about her dowry is increasing because she learns a new skill or a new trade. And he's like, "Oh man, your dowry's going
That's
up."
what that. And I've always said this about my dad, but I'm like, I can't help that he raised me to be a man.
Because he just taught you things,
He
and
just taught,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Um,
But you learn from both of them. It
you
is cool the different things you learn from both. That you like you're saying you learned work ethic from the men in your life.
absolutely, yeah,
And I feel that same way. I also feel I learned work ethic from my mom because my mom was in service to community.
yes, yeah.
And that is cool. That is the beautiful thing about a small town is the community is a little.
Well, if nobody does it, it doesn't get done,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
sometimes you do feel a little bit of pressure, but that's not
Yeah.
always bad.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like everything she did, was work. It wasn't like she was, you know, to,
Yeah, I
it
do.
was a service, like
It
you
was
said.
it was a service,
And
and it wasn't farming, but it wasn't not farming.
yeah,
If that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, yes. Well, and even I remember. I mean, even now. after my own wedding, I was breaking down tables, like in my dress, and everybody's like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
And I feel like if I come, like, and this is something from my mother, and it's something I love, but she taught me to help
Yeah.
always,
Yeah. Like,
if you're able,
yeah.
and
Just
there's
if you
some
can
things
do,
I'm not
if you
able.
can do something, do it.
Yes, and so I'm not. I am, if I go into anything and I'm able to do, I'm going to.
Yeah.
And I appreciate learning that, like your kids have learned.
Yeah.
You
And like they learn different things from. I just think it's interesting the way we do learn,
Yeah.
and the way that legacy gets passed on, because l- like I don't know that my grandparents started out going, you know what, I want our legacy to be service, so we're going to do this.
No. They just did
But they
it.
just lived life.
Mhm.
Now, now Jesus and God were in the
Yeah.
mix,
Yeah.
and so service became a part of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just interesting to me
Yeah.
because, like, you know, m- my parents didn't have to get my kids to write stories,
Mhm.
and they didn't have to get them to do a treasure hunt,
Uh-huh.
but they wanted to,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that want came from like their life and maybe some things that they wished they had had with their grandparents
Yeah. Yeah.
and some things that they did have with their grandparents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like that's a cool, like it's cool that God puts us into families. Um I think of some of the writings of Paul. One of his closest disciples was a guy named Timothy.
Mhm.
And like the last letter that we have that he wrote, he's writing to Timothy and he starts out and he says, I'm reminded of your faith, which first
Okay.
lived in your mom and in your grandma.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like how that legacy was passed down to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think like, what are we passing down to our kids?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm feeling that way big time.
And I mean, I guess it's because of the age I am, and
Uh-huh.
because like there's things that I want my like I feel like really like my time is small.
Yeah.
And so there's things I'm like, oh, did I tell them this? And did I tell them this? And did I tell them this? And how do we, how do we
Yeah.
make sure that this is
Yeah.
an important part of their life?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's it or what.
Teaching and molding.
Yeah, I mean, like you don't, just because they move out of your house doesn't mean you stop being their dad or mom.
Mhm.
And that was something that I learned from my parents
Yeah. Yeah.
because my parents were my safe place.
Mhm. Mhm.
So like um, whenever I would get a job interview for a different church or something like that, it was always really stressful to me.
Okay.
And I would, like, when I knew I was going to get the call, like yes or no,
Yeah.
I would always insist that we go to my parents' house.
Okay.
Like, I would tell Crystal, I'd be like, all right, we got to go see mom and dad.
Mhm.
And what it was is I felt like people were voting on if they loved me or didn't love me.
Okay.
And so I would always go to mama's house because I knew my mom loved me. It didn't matter if I didn't get the job.
Okay.
She
Yeah.
loved me.
Yeah.
Now, my dad would sometimes say, now, Matt, like,
Yeah.
are you sure you want to take this job?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or are you sure, like, of X, Y, or Z? He's trying to make sure I was making the best decision for my family.
Mhm.
But my mom always made sure I felt loved
Okay.
and secure.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting, like, how those roles worked together.
Yeah.
Like my dad's making sure that I'm taking care of my family, and my mom's making sure that I'm taken care of.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
It is. It is.
Anyway, I was just thinking about like the role of legacy and the role that plays in us with
Yes.
our kids and as parents. Anyways, that's what I got today.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Well, see you next time.